Anybody else have? Yes, sir?
You said that you had no obligations to anybody in politics, and nobody had any obligations to you. You're going down to Phoenix. You're going to work with an intractable Congress. How are you going to make it work?
Well, like I said before, I got 35 years of bringing people together, and that's what I do best. Is I get people. You know, I don't care when I get down there. I don't care what kind of label you're wearing. What I'm interested in is common sense. I'm interested in common sense. Folks that are interested in what's best for us here in Arizona, and if we can get those people to sit down and take a look at what we've got to do. You know, we've got number one. I think you got a lot of folks down there with their head in their sand. You got to pull the head out of the sand and say, hey, look at this. This is where we are now. The end date is over here somewhere if we keep going the way we are, like California. You know, how many can take an IOU from the state that they pay the contractor, and he gives it to the guy that operates the bulldozer, and he takes that IOU into the Safeway store? That ain't gonna work too good, is it? So we can't get there, and the only way we can't get there is to address, we got these big boys. We got to play by big boys' rules. We got to stand up and say, here we are.
Yes, sir. My concern is for the state of Arizona's ability to protect itself from federal intrusion, and that includes in the healthcare bill and or any other bills they decide to pass, plus protecting ourselves with the against immigration. Because if we have the ability to create jobs, who's going to take them? Are we going to have to give them to the illegal immigrants if the amnesty bill is passed? The thing, too, is how do we protect the state of Arizona from them, from the federal government? They no longer seem to represent our rights as citizens. This is what we feel is right, and they want to bring about change in our lives without our consent. So I had brought up an idea, which you mentioned in Colorado. One thing is working not only with the 10th Amendment to protect us from constitutional rights against the federal government, but also to create an Arizona militia, the same as Colorado has done. How do you feel about that?
Well, the first thing is we already have an Arizona militia.
It's run by the feds.
No. If you go to the web, you pull up that Arizona Constitution. Every citizen in the state of Arizona, 18 to 45 years old, is a member of the unorganized militia. The organized militia, is that right, Carol? That's right, 18 to 45. You're too old. By the calendar, I'm past the date too, but I'm going to be there. The organized militia is the Arizona National Guard. But now, what do we do? That's a good question. That's a great question, and I've asked a lot of people, and not very many people have an answer because they're afraid of the answer. What we got to do is you got to have somebody, how about the chief executive officer, stand up and say, we're not going to do that. Now, if you don't like Arizona's position, you can come down here and smack me, or maybe you can find a lawyer to come smack me with a paper. But we have the United States Constitution. I was 17 years old, probably the same as you, when I stood up and took the oath to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I think we got plenty of both of them right now. But somebody needs to stand up to them. Nobody in the past has ever stood up to them and said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, you know, we collect. Arizona's a donor state. We send more money up there than we get back. Not by much, but just a little bit. Or we were. I don't know where we are now with the current economic conditions, but it was close. But we send a lot of money up there. So, you know, there are a lot of options on the table. But nobody has ever stood up and said, here's the line, like Jim Bowie did at the Alamo, draw a line in the sand and say, no, that's it. Nobody's ever done that before, but just let them keep coming over, coming. It's time. They can't afford us anymore, and we can't afford them. So we're going to have to just say, whoa. Yes, sir.
some line of the 10th Amendment there. I've heard rumors that there's other states in the same position or willing to make the same stand. Do we have, Arizona standing alone could make a difference. It would be a lot better if there was other governors in step with them.
There are. In fact, I met Rick Perry from Texas back in September. I was at the NRA board meeting, and we had some awards for Texas Rifle and Pistol Club, and the governor came up there with them, and I went up to him and I said, "Hi, Governor, how are you?" And I said, "How's that secession thing going?" And he kind of chuckled, looked at me like, "Huh?" And I said, "Well," I said, when you get that all in place," I said, "Can I come home? I got a birth certificate." And he looked at me and said, "Oh, you come home anytime you want." But I was born in Texas, and it was a good intro, and he'll remember me for that. But they do have a provision for that was instituted a few years ago, as does several states up along the border, Wyoming, Montana, some of those. Don't quote me, but I know there's more that do that. But we'd have to take the south end of New Mexico, where they're not there anyway, but we'd have to take that with us so we'd have access to Texas. Anything else? Well, listen, I appreciate your time. Thank you for your ears. I hope it didn't bore you to death. Barry, thank you. I'd like to come back if you want to submit to the abuse again.